Do you make to all of this?
Well, I think on Joanna Lumley's broader point that it's become fashionable to cast yourself as a victim, I think she's absolutely right. And we can see that in the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. I mean, they are very much trying to portray themselves as victims, whether it's victims of the racist British tabloid press or the racist members of the royal family. They're trying to portray themselves as having been hounded across the sea because they couldn't endure the oppressive atmosphere in Britain, particularly in the palace, which is obviously complete nonsense. And I think it does show just how ridiculous the oppression Olympics has become. If people like Harry and Meghan, who after all still have their titles, their net worth is supposedly $100 million plus, they live in this fabulous ranch in Montecito, they live fabulous lives of international jet setters. If they can portray themselves as victims, it shows just how absurd it is for people to claim victimhood.
And I agree with you, I have to say. And I think I noticed some of the language around one of the recent palace situations about the charity dinner and where someone was asked where they were from repeatedly or whatever. And I noticed some of the language that was there saying, I've been abused, I've been violated. This is an act of abuse. And it's kind of, I've got to say, I find that a little bit extreme. Disclosure, I've not been in a situation where people are repeatedly pressing me to see where I'm from. And, if someone says that that's upsetting, then who am I to say it's not? But then when we're using this language of, I'm traumatised, really?
Well, I think one thing we encounter, Michelle, at the Free Speech Union is that the policing of speech, trying to prohibit the use of certain words, certain phrases, trying to turn universities into safe spaces, to prevent microaggressions, to attach trigger warnings to classic works of English literature. It all seems to be predicated on this idea that universities are full of very fragile, delicate people who will easily be upset, traumatised, sent into a spiral of mental ill health if they encounter anything they find remotely offensive or disagreeable. And often the people doing this language policing, shouting the loudest about it, are upper middle class white males who are sort of presenting themselves as saviours of these poor, beleaguered, put upon women of colour or trans people or, LGBTQ plus people. They're always claiming to be standing up on their behalf for these people who can't speak for themselves. And often that's sort of patronising. It's denying those groups agency. And often if you talk to people in those groups, they actually aren't too concerned about the space needing to be safe and being easily offended. It's all a kind of, imaginary game being played by these woke political activists to silence their opponents.
Yeah.